Do the exercise of going to the library and getting those books and reading them to your 2-year-old self inside, your 4-year-old self inside, your 6-year-old, your 8-year-old, whatever, because you were likely right on track, right on normal, right on all the things. Because believe me, I've read over 600 autobiographies by grad students because I make them look at their own stories, because you're only ever as good a therapist as you know what your stories are, so you don't confuse them with your clients. So I would have them write their sexual story. And these stories fell in the range of normal 99.9% of the time. The range of common.
Coming up on the How to Get a Girl podcast. Yes, you are still in the right place. Do not switch listening to this. This is the former Ask Women podcast, but now we are called How to Get the Girl, brought to you by Ask Women. And to start off the new season, new name, I don't even know what to call it, with a huge bang, we have Dr. Tina Shermer on the show, and she is going to explain to us everything you need to know about how to eliminate any sexual shame you may have that is holding you back both sexually and romantically and confidently. I don't even know if that makes sense, but how it's impacting your confidence, which it does. And you'll hear all about it on this episode. So keep listening. Before I welcome Dr. Tina, I do want to say this is actually a great episode to start with our name change. I mean, after like 1,000 episodes under the Ask Women umbrella, I think this new name really allows us to do a reset to talk about what it is that we're trying to teach guys. And as soon as I saw Dr. Tina's pitch to come and be on our show, I was like, we have to get her to come on, because sexual shame, I believe, and you're going to understand in a second when I tie it together, it is the crux of what is stopping you from getting the girl. So many guys that I work with, so many guys that Kristen work with, think that expressing sexuality, expressing desire, expressing want, letting women know that you're attracted is just a no-no. And that is all tied to sexual shame. And I want to have Dr. Tina explain to us, number one, why this happens, where it comes from, and how we get rid of this stuff, because it's just not helping us get the girl. So Dr. Tina, thank you so much for coming on today and talking with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, both of you. I'm excited to be here as you launch your podcast with the new name that is clear about what you guys are about. And I think that's really good, because it's needed. I mean, guidance and not so much on laundry, but how to have a really advice. Good, rich, we did 3 episodes on laundry.
They weren't well received. No. So let's talk to you. So talk to us about sexual shame. Where does it come from? Why does it happen? I know there's a myriad of reasons, but what's going on for our guys who are listening? Why do they have sexual shame? Where does it come from?
Yeah, and I would say the sexual shame is across the board. So if you're attracted to women, they're going to have their pile of it too. It's just going to look a little different, but they're going to have it. Whatever, it's there. And it's there because we have never in the US had comprehensive sex education, which means that when you're 2 and you find your genitals for the first time, somebody's there to go, hey, yeah, that's your penis. It's a great part of you. Mm-hmm. Now let's finish diapering you or drying you from the bath or whatever, right? And at 2, you're going to start to find your genitals again and again and again, because guess what? It's a place that brings tremendous comfort and pleasure. Mm-hmm. And we are hardwired for connection and pleasure as humans. We just are. That's how we are. But you're going to need to be about 4 before you start to get that idea that they keep saying, if they're saying it without freaking out, saying, yeah, so when you want to touch your penis, go into your room or go into the bathroom. That's what we all do in the family. We kind of do it a little privately. And so we want you to do that. Really? They're going to start to get it. That you've been saying this for 2 years already. Okay. If you have been. But what really is happening for 90 to 95% of families, they are silent in shaming around sex. Mm-hmm. And so when that 2-year-old, year-old, usually it's about 12 months old, they find their genitals for the first time, somebody is saying gross, slapping their hand away, saying that's yucky, that's gross, don't, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Instead of just, I'm going to help this little one name their world. That's your penis. It's a great part of you. That's your vulva. It's a great part of you. It's whatever. That's a tree. That's a cat. That's a dog. It's eyes, nose, ears, the whole thing.
Right. They should read
And
you head and shoulders, knees and toes.
Knees and toes. Exactly. That's it. Right. Exactly.
Penis, vagina.
Yes.
Included. You're right.
Yes.
It should be normalized. Yeah.
It's just a part of your body.
Yep.
It's a wonderful part of your body, but lots of parts of your body are wonderful for different reasons. Yet, here's what's go ahead.
Sorry, I'm jumping in as
please.
the resistance to the being so comfortable with talking about genitals. I'm listening going, it's giving me anxiety already. And I don't know if this would equate to sexual shame, but when we were little, my mom referred to our area. See, I'm saying area.
Can't even say it.
As our
your zones,
as our middle. And she referred to it as our middle because her mother referred to it as her middle. And so my sister and I just thought everyone talked like in the form of my middle, like my middle itches or something like that, like until we were a little bit older. But that's as close as we could get. I don't know if that would be shame-ish.
Yeah, totally.
But is there a way for someone who's very resistant to the idea of saying to a 4-year-old, like, hey, we all touch our wieners, our dicks, penises. Is there a way to do it softer without creating shame where it is something like your middle or whatever? That's obviously for girls. Or would that add?
I don't think a middle is gender specific. I think that's very neutral.
Some guys are hung to the left.
Right, that's true.
That's fine too.
My middle left. My middle left. That's fine.
The question I ask myself, and let me tell you, I grew up in a Swedish immigrant home where they have had comprehensive sex education for generations. Mm-hmm. So I talked to grandparents, aunts, and uncles, and everybody talked about bodies and sexuality in very normative, short little sound bites. And there was joking, but it was always respectful.
Yeah.
And it was always not a big deal. Like it wasn't a bigger deal than talking about recipes or how you take care of your teeth. It just was part of life. That's what I knew. And I actually thought every family was like that until I was in my 30s and teaching sexuality at the graduate level and started learning from my students and from clients that they got something very different. Mm-hmm. Right. And so the question I ask myself with the question you're asking, Kristen, is, do we do that with any other part of our body? Do we call our nose the top or our ears or our elbow? The outside point. That's the outside point. No, we call them the names they were given. And
but we do say don't pick your nose. Like we do have some shame around that as a
So I don't even know if that's shame. It could be depending on how you do it, but it is it's a social rule, like a social norm. And so, yes, we teach our children the social norms. They pick their nose, they put it in their mouth. Sweet pea, you need to go get a napkin, or let's do that with a napkin, when they're really little. And then it's go get that. And then, honey, I'm worried if you continue to do that, you're going to get teased when you go to kindergarten. Yeah. And I would hate that for you. So we're teaching them social rules. We do the same about touching yourself, exactly. Wonderful part of your body. Fabulous. I'm so glad it's within reach. It's great. And we touch private parts of our body in private places. And so what are the private places in our home? You have your bedroom, you have the bathroom, we have our bedroom, whatever it is. And so it's just like we're teaching the social norms, but we're not shaming the thing.
Activity. Yeah.
No, or the part of the body. It's just another part of the body.
Yeah. Well, so let me ask you a question. So obviously some shame begins with not even being comfortable talking about these parts of ourselves. So when it comes to feeling attractions, expressing yourself to the opposite sex, like where's the shame for feeling attraction come from? Because I feel like that's a different shame. Unless I'm sure they're tied together in some way. It's like if you're not supposed to talk about your penis, then you're definitely not supposed to talk about being attracted to somebody, right? So like,
or having an erection,
right?
But or noticing a feeling.
Right. Or noticing a feeling. Right. Or even if they're thinking that having an erection is like a negative thing, then they would definitely also label, oh, I'm attracted to this woman. I have to hide that right away.
Yeah,
like where does that shame come from?
The second book I wrote, came because the first book explained how shame happened and what had been happening historically in the United States and how you heal it. And was America ever sex positive, or was Christianity ever sex positive, since that's what's influenced America the most? I went way into the Abrahamic line, into Jewish writing, and there was beautiful sex positive things in there that
totally
we didn't know. I mean,
Jews know how to get sexy.
No, it's true. And there's a beautiful long history. But a lot of people who don't have that history didn't know that. And so, because I knew a lot of people that couldn't go to the sex positivity that's on the Eastern line, I said, you deserve to know this, that if you stay on the Abrahamic line, there's some beautiful things that were never brought forward. So I put that in the book, and then how you heal and how you bring your own spirituality into it. But I had a ton of people that wrote and said, that was super helpful. Now I don't feel crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to really heal all the different parts of me that got hurt. And I don't know how to help my children do anything different. Like, I only know, I get the feeling like you were talking, Kristen, but I go, but I don't know what to do. I will know what I don't want to do, but I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I got you. I will write a book. And so this book, which is called Shameless Parenting, Everything You Need to Raise Shame-Free, Confident Kids and Heal Your Shame Too, is put together birth to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, up to age 18. And every section says, here's what they're trying to do emotionally, generally speaking, at this age. Behaviorally, here's how it's likely to get expressed. Here's the body or sexual or relational or emotional curiosities they're likely to express. Mm-hmm. How will it be for you when they express that, right? Find their genitals, curious about somebody else's genitals, walk in on you, etc., have their first wet dream or whatever the case, How will that be for you when you find out? If you can feel that part of you go, I want you to put your hand on your heart and say, that's my shame that I got from people who loved me but didn't know how to give me what I needed around this. You're fine. And then I literally say, here are the top books for kids that age. Here are the top books and websites for parents or adults that age. And I'll say to people, if you've got kids you don't want to mess up, then just be 2 years ahead of them in this book. Don't feel like you have to have the whole thing nailed. If you're wanting to heal or reparent yourself, do the exercise of getting the book and then going to the library and getting those books and reading them to your 2-year-old self inside, your 4-year-old self inside, your 6-year-old, your 8-year-old, whatever, because you were likely right on track, right on normal, right on all the things. Because believe me, I've read over 600 autobiographies by grad students because I make them look at their own stories, because you're only ever as good a therapist as you know what your stories are, so you don't confuse them with your clients. Mm-hmm. So I would have them write their sexual story. And these stories fell in the range of normal 99.9% of the time. The range of common.
Hear about the 0.1% that doesn't.
There's few, but not very, very, very few.
I would think everything is totally normal.
Well, as the Woody Allen of the podcast speaking, the neurotic one, I've always felt, I do stand up. I'm kind of in this cynical headspace.
Yeah,
That's
it's
who
great.
I am. It's, I guess, how my ego defines itself. But I think that there's healthy shame, and it keeps us from doing things that might be a little bit or a little bit creepy or not necessary. So I'm in the school of a touch of shame helps the world. We don't want to all be in full shame, but is there a little healthy shame in sex? So perhaps maybe it keeps someone from sleeping around as a 16-year-old all of the time. And I'm not saying you're promoting like having sex with just having no shame, but that's where my neurotic brain goes is if I had a kid and I normalized it so early, they'd be out like humping every dude around every corner as soon as they've got half a tit. So, and I'm still waiting on mine, but
it's so interesting because I actually think the opposite. It's
you're way more open and free.
But that's an example for you. Like I've talked to Kristen about this before, and I've said on the podcast. My mom had cutout dolls of my whole family in naked versions that she showed me when I was younger. And she's like, this is this part, this is that part. I had a book when I found out I was pregnant with my first child. I got this the sex book that my mom had got for me. I don't know why I thought like my newborn would need this sex book, but it was the book What's Happening to Me, because I just like was like, what were the books that I remember from when I was younger? And that was the main book that I remembered. And so
we all showered with our clothes on. Basically.
Right, exactly. And
we
you
were
guys
never
in your
naked.
middle, and I take baths with my sons. I'm just saying, like for me, and I don't know if this is for everybody. It was very normalized. I had zero shame around sex. I didn't have a ton of like open conversations. My mom wasn't talking about my vulva all day and like showing me how her and my dad have sex. Like she wasn't talking about that, but she just didn't. There was no shame around it, and there was no extreme conversation about it. It was just normal. And so therefore it didn't seem like something that I needed to explore. I was pretty prude when I was younger. So it was the opposite for me.
And I have to say too, just because I don't want to speak ill of my family or how we were raised, we just didn't talk about it. There wasn't shame. It wasn't shame. It just was, it didn't exist. And if there's a sexy part in a movie coming up, I might close my eyes or go, oh, I got to go to the bathroom suddenly. So weird. What random timing. Also the popcorn's ready right now. So we just didn't go there. But
my son does that on his own, where he leaves because he's uncomfortable when he's around us. But that's not from me and my husband. If anything, I tell my son too much. But I do want to try to get, and I love all this conversation because I think it's so important. I do want to get back to like the non-sexual side, the shame of, I don't have my permission to express attraction, which I think is a little bit different. So I want guys to understand that at the core. And also I want them to understand at the core how accepted it is by women to be able to feel that somebody's attracted to them. But I do also, if you're able to, provide the parameters around that. So like I always say, like you're allowed to express interest in a woman. You're allowed to show that you're attracted. If anything, it is sexy when a man is attracted to a woman.
Yeah, it is.
But I do feel like that guidance can be taken in so many ways, where I'll have to say, it doesn't mean you like whip your penis out and say like, see, I'm aroused, or grab a woman. And I'm just saying, like, what are the parameters with that? And I don't know if you can describe this, but what does it look like when a man is appropriately and comfortably expressing attraction and sexual desire for a woman? And I that's a big question to try to define, but I'd love to dive into that.
Okay. Can I have permission to just build an arc a little bit instead of going straight to adulthood and how do I do X, right? So I want to say that and I'm just going to tie back to what you were saying, Kristen, and take us there, if that's okay.
Yeah.
There's a difference between shame and guilt. Shame is when I have been doing something natural to who I am at that age and stage, and I'm getting in trouble from the people I love who sustain my life. Okay. And what I was trying to show you was that this happens for most Americans pre-verbally, and then it continues to happen because the adults in their life are not comfortable with the expressions that come out. And so they get in trouble, but they don't think until they're like 5, 6, 7, they're not going to think, oh, I shouldn't do that thing, or else I'm going to get in trouble. It's not even a thing. They have had all these years of thinking, it's who I am. Who I am is not okay because I keep getting in trouble for just the things I naturally do. Like they can't cognate that, but that's what's happening somatically in their body, is this sense of something must be really wrong with me because these people I love keep being mad at me and I don't know for what, right? That is different. And I don't think anything that leaves us feeling not valuable, because we are valuable at our core. So anything that leaves us feeling that way is shame. And that's not helpful. That makes us feel depressed, unworthy, withdrawn, questioning ourselves, all kinds of things.
Okay.
Guilt is different. Guilt is when I have my own ethic, like I don't believe lying is good, or I don't believe whatever is okay, and I do it anyway. and I get in trouble, that thing I feel in my gut is guilt, and it's actually motivating of change. So when you're talking about shame, like there's good shame and bad shame, Tina goes, there's bad shame and there's good guilt.
Right.
And guilt is, I knew I should have done something different and I chose not to, and I got in trouble and I kind of deserve that. And or even if I didn't get in trouble, I don't like what I feel in here inside myself, right? That's guilt. Research actually, when you say, well, if we talk about it, they're going to do it. That idea is a patriarchal idea that has been around for thousands of years, right? But what research shows us is that when you get age appropriate sex education, somebody's just helping you understand what's going on, puts it in context for you. Those kids get involved with sex later, make safer sexual choices, choose partners that are more kind and more loving, less exploitive, right? And they describe themselves after their partner as having better sexual lives and more fun relationships, right? Because they were given this information along the way. And my favorite part of the research says that kids who have parents that can do this for them, they describe themselves as adolescents as closer to their parents overall. And so there's a book called Not Under My Roof that was written by a Dutch researcher who came to the US and started noticing how adolescents were with their parents around sexuality here. And she thought it was really weird because Holland has had one of the best comprehensive sex ed programs in the world. So she studied families in 2 different towns in Holland and 2 different towns in the US and wrote a book. And for a lot of Americans who read that book, they can hardly believe that a 15 or 16 or 17-year-old would say, I really like this person. I'm feeling like I might want to be sexual with them at some point this year. What do you think? And they talk it through with their parents, and they have sex for the first time at one of their homes, not in the back of a car.
Yeah, and their parents watch. It's crazy.
And I'm thinking,
no, their parents don't watch, but their parents might know. Close. Yeah, the parents might know that it's
and then talk about it afterwards.
And then talk about it. Did you feel like you were cared for, loved, listened to, that your pleasure was important, whatever. And so when you ask the question, I'm so excited for
my kids to be teens. They're not going to have sex though because of me. They're like, we're going to wait till we're 40. Yeah.
It's so fun. I have 4 kids between 30 and 40. And I tell you what, growing up with them, like watching them grow up and make their mistakes, learn from them, all the things. So I would say to them, it's not a mistake if you can turn it into a lesson. So if you look back and say, I wish I did that different, think about
next time.
Yeah, learn what that is and then let that shape you. That's what learning by experience is. It's a good thing. If we were supposed to not learn by experience, this wouldn't take till 25,
right?
The
exactly.
prefrontal lobe to mature, right? But it does. So we are meant to learn through experience, and it's fun. I mean, when you can just celebrate kids being kids, I would say you're just fulfilling your job description. You're not supposed to like what I'm saying right now.
Right.
That would be weird. You're not supposed to. And yet my job is to put parameters down and try to protect you so that your growth can match what you can cognate, and we would just talk about it as life. But so when we want to look at, so then what does it mean to express your attraction to somebody, your interest in somebody? If you've been learning all along, this is why I say go back and do that book for yourself, because if you've been learning along the way that my attraction is good, who I am is good, my body is good, my interests are good, I just need to find someone who fits with me well, or whatever.
And I can express these interests and it's okay.
Yeah. And you can learn how to, like, you can start to say, what do I notice about what this person cares about? I first want to show that they are seen. If humans want to be seen, known, loved, and accepted, I can show them that they're seen, that they're heard, that I care. I can ask questions. Well, tell me more about your work, or tell me more about what this thing that you love or this thing that you love. They start to feel safe with me. They know that I listen to them. If they say, I prefer this and not that, I listen to that. So now they feel safe. And I can start to say, I really am attracted to you, or I just think you're a beautiful human, or I find myself thinking about you because I think I'm just so drawn to the person that you are. If you help someone feel like you see the whole of them and that is really attractive, as well as the parts,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to start to feel seen, known, loved, and accepted and protected likely by you.
Yeah.
And they're going to welcome that often. If they're a person, again, you want to find people who are sound as well, like on both their feet.
Right, exactly. But I will say a lot of people are not so sound and they still want to have advice and guidance, at least a starting spot. So let me ask you a question. So you were talking before about like romantic attraction, right? For somebody who's looking to get into a relationship. What if there's a 27-year-old or a 40-year-old who's just gotten divorced, who's just like, I just want to have fun and I want to be able to express my interest in women. That isn't like, I see your heart and I love you. How do they still express that interest, but that it is a sexual desire. It's about attraction. Yeah. How do you do that as a man? What's the guidance that you would give to a man? And also on the flip side, as a woman, can I get like a thumbs up and permission that women are wanting and open to hearing these expressions? We'd rather hear this than pretending there's no attraction at all.
Yeah, I think you do have to. I think it's saying I'm attracted to you. I'm just attracted to you is an important thing. But what we don't know is we don't know her history. And the vast majority of women have had at least one sexual encounter they did not want or ask for.
Yes.
Right. So they have some amount of trauma. And so you're also going to need to share or represent how are you a safer person than other people they've been with. It doesn't have to be love. It doesn't have to be anything, but you will have fun and be safe in my presence. Right. And so
how do you express that? That's
so you can, then you show interest. You just show interest in the person, right? You just like, I can see you as different from me. So therefore I can be attracted to you. I can listen to you. I can figure out what boundaries are with you. I can talk about things like, what do you think you would be into? Are you at a place where what are you looking for in your own life? Tell me about you. Tell me about you. Tell me about what your interests are. I mean, so do that, invite them to tell you about them, and then show that you can honor and respect that even sexually.
Right.
Like,
and casually. It doesn't have to be that you're promising anything more.
No. But women are going to be, and this is a very general thing, and believe me, they're coming in with their whole shit ton of shame too, right?
Yeah.
And maybe trying to be performative, trying to be what they think you want them to be, whatever. But if you can at least share in some ways, in ways that help them feel safer, they're more likely to open up to you sexually. Yeah. In other words, if being sexual is something they're open to, and you show that you can appreciate them, that you can see them, that you get them, and that there's a thing between you, you can feel the chemistry, then if you can help them see that they would be safe, that just means not hurt, listened to,
that you're
cared
going to be
about.
Transparent, right?
Yes.
You're not going to lead on. You're not going to promise things that aren't going to happen. You're not going to disappear for weeks at a time, even if you still want casual. Okay.
Absolutely. And that she might say that. She might say, I'm so not into a relationship right now, but I really like connecting with people, and just that much. And then, well, tell me what you like about that kind of connecting. Again, be interested. Let her tell you, because that's going to also tell you how to create a sense of safety, that she can go through her arousal cycle in front of you.
Yeah.
And let it all out. Have the tiny death where she's not even conscious because her orgasm is so great. She can let you into that space because she knows you're not going to hurt her.
Can you tell me more about that? Like going through her whole cycle? Like, what does that mean?
Well, again, if you've made her feel so, you're going to need to establish some kind of something that says, I will treat you with care. So you need to have some conversation.
Right.
You're safe in my hands. I will listen to you. We can talk about what you want to do ahead of time. We can make a decision about what feels safe and what's good. I'm interested in what you care about. I'm interested in what brings pleasure to you. Recently, I was talking to somebody in their 30s who was who was developing a relationship. They'd done a couple fun things together. Neither one of them were really up for a relationship right then, but they really were attracted to each other. And so they just had some fun together for a few times of things. And then it came like they were starting to talk about like past relationships or having sex or whatever. And he says to her, tell me what you're into. Like, should this ever go towards sex? Tell me what you're into. Like, what do you like? If it could be all about you, what would you want it to be about? And she goes, oh, dude, I'm a pillow princess. I want it to be all about me. And he goes, oh, I'm so glad because I am a pleasure dom. I'm all about who I'm with pleasure, even if it's just for that night. That just makes me happy. I love it. And so they had that kind of, what are you into? What do you like? They had that kind of conversation. So then you can build on that, even if it's just for that. So, but often before you have that conversation, you've got to have had interactions back and forth that communicate that I'm listening. I'm hearing.
I'm seeing you as a human.
I'm asking you relevant questions.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not making it all about me. Right? And that's what's going to help her feel safe, because chances are most women that you're with, if they have any dating history at all, have had at least one, if not more, experiences they didn't want. And so they come in with a little bit of a guard up. Like, are you going to be one of those?
Okay. Mm-hmm. Which makes total sense. So what I'm hearing from you, which I think is really important, is that the inability to, or the lack of desire, or the fear or discomfort with just being a confident man who feels attraction.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to call it shame, because it's not always shame, but it may come from shame. It comes from a past or childhood where people have been told that what you're feeling naturally, what you want to do naturally is bad.
That's
Hide
right.
it.
That's shame.
Don't do it. We don't want to talk about it. So you just, like as a child, you bury all of these things. So then you think in order to connect with women, connect with other people, you have to use other more stealth ways, like being really nice. That actually makes complete sense. Like, that's what you're learning instead. Instead, you have to please or be really nice and respectful, and that's going to get you what you want, because you may have seen that in your household. So that everything you're saying makes total sense. And then later on, you're saying that if you do want to express sexual interest, what you're trying to also say is, you're safe with me. I'm very comfortable saying who I am, what I want, feeling attraction towards you. And I'm not going to hurt you or burn you.
I'm not going to act on that without your permission.
Yes, that's even better. I'm not going to act on that without your permission.
That's right. I'm happy to talk about what I like.
Just know that I'm confident that I'm allowed to feel this. I love that. I
absolutely. Love that. It's human.
It's
I'm often saying that when infants are born, they're already rooting, seeking that breast, right? The milk isn't there.
Right.
It's their draw for connection and pleasure. It's human. We know if toddlers don't get enough holding, they'll suffer neurological damage. You can walk down the halls of an Alzheimer's unit and you will see people seeking connection and pleasure, even if they don't have a memory. It's who's doing it today, who's making it make me feel this today. This is with us our entire lives. But so few children actually have people in their life that are naming it, helping them see it as good, as human, helping them understand the responsibility that they might have to it. Like, that's what you feel, but you can't assume your friend wants to play that game exactly the way you want unless you to talk about it first. You know what I mean? Like, you learn the skills of relationship.
That's interesting. You can't put that onto somebody else. It's okay to think those things and want those things, but you have to have a conversation first. And if they're not into it, they're not into it.
Then you figure out something else together. You learn how to negotiate. You learn how to create relationship, a bridge between you. This is all the tiny steps of things that you ideally, I say there's no such thing as a talk. If you really want to do comprehensive sex ed well, there are 100 1-minute conversations. Yes. And they happen throughout your development and they meet you where you are. So for example, you have a 9-year-old who you overhear say to their 5-year-old little sister, I've got a lollipop. If you clean our whole room, I'll give you the lollipop. Right? The parent thinks to themselves, I don't think that would feel fair if the roles were reversed. Like that's a power play on the 9-year-old's part. Is he bad or she bad? No. We want what we want. That is human.
I mean, that's
we
negotiating.
Can call it, manipulation. We can call it exploitation. We could call it power abuse. But bottom line, it's human. Mm-hmm. But we are accountable to it, to learn about it. And so you say to that 9-year-old, so I want to ask you something. If we put you guys in opposite places, if they were the 9-year-old and you were the 5-year-old, would that feel fair to you? Well, no. Okay. Anytime you do that, you use your power, your age, your height, your weight, your cognitive development to get something from someone and it's not fair, you wouldn't think it was fair, then we call that a power abuse, an abuse of power. And it doesn't feel good. Even though you get what you want, it doesn't feel good in your heart and it doesn't feel good to the other person. And I want you to know how to love honestly and to care for people honestly. So I want you to pay attention to the fact that you are older and bigger, and all those places in your life where you are older, you're bigger, your skin color, your gender, whatever puts you in a place of power. You have responsibility to that power to make sure that it's at the very least neutral. And at best, it serves love and justice.
Interesting.
And that is something that if you teach that to a 9-year-old boy, then when they're 14 and watching porn and they see exploitation everywhere in heterosexual porn, right? Then they go, okay, this is entertainment. This is the Fast and Furious as it relates to porn, or Spider-Man as it relates to porn. But this is not how you do relationships, because if I treated somebody this way, they wouldn't feel like I was a safe person. I learned about power as a child, and my parents helped me keep learning about my power. So now I can use my power in a way that really works. I can use it in business this way. I can use it in interpersonal relationships this way, and children this way. They've been thinking about it because somebody trained them up. Do we think about teaching kids about power? No. Do we think about teaching them as power as having something to do with sexual development? No, but it does.
Interesting. This one triggers me. The sexual shame triggers Kristen. Yeah. That's interesting because I actually would have said, "Good job," if you got you're the 5-year-old to clean the room for a lollipop, because I don't know what that lollipop,
savvy,
like what the level of value it is to that 5-year-old. I know my 5-year-old be like, "I want that lollipop." So
sure,
right.
And the 5-year-old I'm thinking of thinks their brother walks on water.
Right. Okay.
But is it good is it a good learning for the 9-year-old to learn how to get what they want, even if it hurts people?
But what if it's not hurting somebody?
But I want them to start paying attention.
Right. Okay.
They're 9. They're in 4th grade
for a bit. Yeah.
They're in 4th grade. They're taller than the average. They're now playing very competitive games with their friends, and I want them paying attention to the people who might have lesser power. Let's say a very petite boy wants to play, and they haven't been learning about power and size. And so now they're going along with the teasing of the kid.
Right. Okay. That's a very different scenario. But yes, I agree with you. It's interesting. I'd like to talk to you offline about this because that's an interesting topic that I have mixed opinions on, actually.
Yeah, sure.
So it's interesting. I have to like think on this more. But I love that you're sharing that, because I think it's an interesting way to think about your power dynamic. But I guess it just depends. Oh God, that sounds horrible. Like how you want your child to think about power, of being just aware of it, and then letting them
just
make
aware
choices.
of it. Yeah. Power in and of itself isn't bad. Money in and of itself isn't bad, but what we do with it can be. And so this is
the intent. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the Jewish stories that I share in there, and I don't know if you grew up with this one, but there's a very, very old story about 500 BC where the rabbis were super worried in the village because people seemed to not be managing sexuality well. And they were like, we don't like this, right? And they go into the Holy of Holies and they beg God, please take that away, because that's going to be the end of us, right? And God says, no. And they go back and they're pleading and pleading and pleading and pleading. And finally, God says, fine. And out of the Holy of Holies jumps this spirit of a lion of fire that goes across the whole village. the next morning, the hens aren't laying eggs. The people aren't able to do their work. Everything stops. It's like a massive depression settles on the village. And the rabbis can see that there's some connection between the whole desire to create, to do, right? And so they come back and they go, well, can you just take the sexuality one away, but leave the rest of them? And God says, no. With all great gifts I give you the responsibility to manage it. Right. And so Jews often grow up thinking about desire as innovation. It's good. It's the breath of God within you. It came at your first breath. It will leave at your last. Right. It's good. But what you do with it is your responsibility. Right. This is teaching about power.
It's like getting a driver's license, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, you've got a car. You have to be responsible with it. This is how you don't hit people. This is how you are, conscientious when you're driving. Okay, that makes total sense. That makes total sense.
And using your analogy of a car, most families have talked about cars with the 2-year-old and the 4-year-old and the 6, whatever, all the way along, like saying, because then they're like, well, you're going over the speed limit. The speed limit says 30 and you're going 40. You're right. I am. Let's talk about that. What's unsafe about that? Whatever. What you've been talking about it.
But then
you're
it's like
not
you
telling them
after. Yes.
Yes. But you haven't been saying, we're not talking about this at all. We're not going to talk about it. And all I'm going to tell you is that it's incredibly dangerous. Yeah. That's all I'm going to tell you. And then when you're 16, I'm going to hand you keys and tell you are safe enough to drive on the freeway. Right. No, that is not what we do. But we do that with sexuality, relational intelligence, emotional intelligence, and sexual intelligence. Yeah, when we deny kids learning the little pieces they need along the way.
Yeah, you're totally
Which
right
gives them the confidence to be able to say, I'm fine. I'm good. What I think and what I feel is value. I just need to find people that I can relate to around that. And if
and understand how other people respond to it. Exactly. I'm going to test the waters and see what's okay. And you obviously give the lessons about what's potentially off limits for other people and what needs to have a conversation first so that there's guardrails. Yeah.
Yes. You're totally and those guardrails, when they're put together developmentally, they're done all along the way. Okay. Like it's teaching about body autonomy to the 4-year-old, teaching about where, do you have the right to touch anybody? Do they have the right to touch you? Right. How do we find out? How do we ask permission? I want to hug you to the 4-year-old. Now the 2-year-old's been hugging everybody, but by 4, we're going to teach them again, some things about body autonomy and choice, right? Consent. We're teaching about, well, is that okay with you? Is that okay with them? You want to play XYZ for the next 3 hours. Do they? How do you ask? This is called consent. It's these little pieces.
These little nuggets that you're giving.
Yes, but all of them build confidence.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's that confidence that makes the difference when I'm going to be vulnerable and tell somebody how I feel.
I love that. Okay, so you actually mentioned something earlier before because you said that for adults who are, because hopefully there's no kids listening to this show, but if they are, that's great. You're getting education. It would be wonderful. But for adults who do realize they have sexual shame in their life, that you said to go to the library, pick up some books and go through the ages, really, and just educate yourself on sex.
Right.
And just not just be okay with it, but just educate yourself on sex. Because a lot of guys write into me, and I'm sure with Kristen as well, and say, this is my shame. I have no sexual experience, or I have little sexual experience. Okay. And some of these guys are 20, 30, 40, however old they are. They have little sexual experience. And I said, something that's better, I forget even how I phrase it, but it's like the best thing for sexual inexperience is educating yourself, because most of the people who are sexually experienced don't actually know what they're doing. So if you can go out and arm yourself with education that can grow your intelligence, that can grow your confidence, and then if you're feeling comfortable, you get to be the one that wants to explore.
Yeah.
When you do have your sexual experiences. So even if you can't have the experiences, you can be armed way better than most people out there who have years of experience.
That's right. Absolutely. And again, being able to create a sense of safety, a sense of we have enough safety here that now we can talk about what we feel like,
Yeah.
I want to emphasize again that if you want to know what books to get, get the Shameless Parenting book, because literally, I will tell
you're
you,
saying it maps it out.
It maps it out for you. And so, because it's social emotional learning in about the first 8 years of life. And then after that, we can start getting into reproduction and other kinds of things. But there's a whole lot of other things about how you basically relate that you want to get some knowledge on. And it can feel overwhelming to be like, I don't even know where to start. I literally lay it out to you. And I like people to think about, you have an inner 2-year-old who may not have gotten what they needed. You had people who loved you. They just didn't know any better. And an inner 3-year-old and 4-year-old and 5-year-old. Let's nurture those. Pretend you're actually reading to them. Like you're reading to that part of you that was probably getting in trouble because you really liked your penis, or you really liked whatever you really liked.
Or you were curious about it. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. And so you're going to take yourself through this, and it gets more complex as the kids get older because they can handle more complexity, right? And so the books get more complex. But when they do that, I think you end up nourishing and nurturing and healing and teaching so much of you. The other thing I would say that I don't know if anybody's brought up here before, but that I think is really a viable option for people who haven't had a lot of sexual experience. They want to get a sense of themselves in the touch experience that will help them articulate what they like and what they don't like, is to work with a surrogate, a sexual surrogate. Now, in some states that's legal, and in some states that's a sex worker. I mean, that's an illegal sex work, right? But I tell you, I remember
what?
Yeah, exactly, right? I had a woman.
Surrogates.
Yeah.
Well, there are people who, a surrogate is a type of sex worker if the state they live in makes the kind of work they do illegal. What a surrogate is, you can watch the movie The Sessions with Helen Hunt. It's probably 15 years old now. That was an actual case in California where a person who was disabled went and worked with a sex worker because he wanted to experience all of the stuff before he died, literally. And so it was his therapist, the surrogate, and him. And so the way it worked is he would go see his therapist. They would talk about what he needed and what he needed next. She would call the surrogate and say, this is what our session was about this week. I think he could go this far, or something like this. And then the client and the surrogate meet, they go this much further. Like he's able to say yes and no, I don't like, whatever it is. They do that.
Much further. Not that big.
She goes back to the therapist, tells them they have their session again, and this is how you work, right? It's very deliberate. Well, I had a woman come to me at 42 and tell me that she had never had a sexual experience, or had never been dating, just kind of forgot about dating, but no religious background or anything. She goes, I was just, I was kind of analytical, and in my career, I didn't think about it. But I just had my first sexual experience, and it woke something up in me. And now I'm scared because I don't feel ready to enter the dating world. So we did 3 or 4 sessions. And then I just said to her, because I lived at that point in a state that it wasn't legal. And I said, I'm having this wild idea, and I'm going to throw it out to you, but I'm going to say right up front, it's not even legal here. But I know that this could be really helpful and protective to you. So I told her about what it was like to work with a surrogate. And I said, they will work with me and you. They will go very slow, and they will help you define what you like, what makes you feel safe, so that when you're done with the work, which was only like 4 sessions, she was able to say, this is where my bar is. This is what I want. This is how I want to be treated. This is what I like. And so she walked out into the dating world without the experience, but with that one experience that helped her identify.
Which is probably way better than all of the other experience she had, because this is somewhere where she was able to express herself, talk with the other person.
But surrogate doesn't mean just carrying a baby for somebody. That's what I know the
No.
Like, what? Wait.
No. Yeah.
A
sexual surrogate, right, which is different. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I wouldn't want to confuse people, but
but so many people have this experience where 2 people are not meeting in the same space sexually. I've talked about this
Right.
before, but I
Yes.
remember
Yes.
I had this boyfriend when I was backpacking who just like would ask me
I
what
love
I
your
liked, and
backpacking
I'd be like,
story.
yeah, I know.
It's like my grandma.
That's where all my
telling her,
stories
like, one
are from.
sexual story.
Yeah, exactly. That's and then I keep repeating over and over again. No, but he just like opened me up sexually because I didn't
Yeah.
know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted. Nobody had ever asked me before. And then the next boyfriend that I had, I passed that on and I would say, "What do you like? What do you want me to do?" And he did not like it because he wasn't used to it. And he snapped at me and said, "Stop asking me what I like. It makes me really uncomfortable." And then I got really silent. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to go into a relationship with someone who it's agreed upon before what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I think it's great. I'm going to wrap up the show. I'm so sorry, but I could talk about this for an hour. I do want to finish it on one selfish thing that I'm going to ask because you can tune out of the show now because this is about something with my son. So my son, who is 8 years old, does this thing that drives me absolutely insane. It's very sexual. And I don't know how to handle it. And I try different things every time. And my other son can't stand it. But he'll go, ah, ah.
Yeah.
And it makes my skin crawl every time that he does it because I'll say, that's a very sexual noise that you're making. I know that you don't really know what that means. I know you've heard it in movies or in television shows. But please don't do that in front of me. I don't like saying like, don't do that in front of me. But I can talk about sex till the cows come home. But when I hear that, I'm just like, I can't. The other day he was walking home with my other son. Exactly.
When they're hitting the like,
yeah. But my other son slapped him on the face the other day when he did this because he's like, stop doing that. He just because he knows it gets under his skin. What is the appropriate thing to say to him?
He's getting a rise out of both of you.
Oh, 100% every time.
Yeah, and so he's getting what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing you.
Okay.
You're
so what
played.
do I do? Just
so
do it
is
back
the
to
brother,
him?
and you have to decide: is violence okay as a way to solve a problem?
No, it's not okay.
Okay, so
yes.
Go
well,
in,
no.
go. Well, if you're choosing it, yeah. But go in with just like a kind of distanced curiosity. Like, honey, you know that I'm not crazy about that. But what are you hoping is going to happen when you do that? Like, what are you wanting? Because if what you're really wanting is a hug, I'm happy to hug you.
Yeah, or a laugh.
Yeah. But I want to know what you're hoping for by doing a thing that, whatever.
But is that causing shame because it's causing a rise?
No, you're asking them. It's a real question. Like it's a real question.
But my current reaction right now, because
your current reaction is, you're giving him a rise and his brother's giving him a rise. But, and so he's getting some kind of attention. And with some kids, bad attention is better than no attention or whatever.
Well, that's my son. Yes.
And sometimes very, very internally sensitive children are like that. So actually it's turning the volume down on the rises from you. And if your other son can do it, and turning it up on the things that they're doing that you actually want to see more of.
Okay.
Getting up in the morning and saying hi. Oh, I love it when you say hi to me in the morning. That just warms my heart. You start turning the volume up on all the other places where you want more of that, and you turn the volume down on your rises.
Interesting.
You just don't give him that.
I think he's realizing that when he does do things that are more sexual, he gets a bigger reaction from us, either laughing or whatever it is. Okay, interesting. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Tina. I really enjoyed this conversation. And you definitely gave me a lot.
Now
to
I have
think
shame
about.
that I have shame.
You should.
No, I'm kidding.
You should. You should absolutely. No, I'm just joking.
No, everything about you.
Kristen has come such a long way. You have no idea. I remember.
I love it. Good for you, and you deserve it.
About it, yeah. So
yeah,
you should be proud of yourself. Absolutely,
you deserve all the fun and pleasure and goodness that the world can bring.
Yeah. Can you tell people again what book that you wrote that they should be?
So if you have religious sexual shame or sexual shame from growing up in the U.S., the first book is called Sex, God, and the Conservative Church, Erasing Shame from Sexual Intimacy. The second book is called Shameless Parenting. Everything you need to raise shame-free, confident kids and heal your shame too. So even if you don't have kids in your life, if you walk yourself through that book as if you're reparenting yourself, you will get rid of so much of the things that make you question yourself and your value and your good enoughness, because you are good enough.
Will you send me the 2 links to purchase that book? Because I want to make sure Kristen includes those.
Yes. And I will say, if any of your audience cannot afford either book, to DM me on Instagram. I'm Dr. Tina Shameless, and I will send you an Audible link, a promo link, so that I don't want anybody to not get it because they can't afford it.
I love that. Okay, thank you so much.
Well, by reading these books, the only thing is we are creating no more comedians in the world.
Yeah, I know.
No, we need
all of them have so much shame. They'll find shame in other areas. They totally will.
Some people just don't read it just so we have a few comedians left.
Exactly. Keep the cynicism up.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Dr. Tina, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, you are awesome for listening to this episode. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of How to Get the Girl, brought to you by Ask Women. New episodes of the How to Get the Girl podcast, because you'll see a new thumbnail on our
I love how you call it thumbnail,
right?
Logo.
It's a thumbnail. Yeah. It's a logo. Oh, yeah, but I don't know. I'm used to living in the YouTube world. So, yeah, it's a logo. Okay, it's our new logo. Really is a thumbnail, though. Logo, something different. Anyway, forget semantics. But new episodes come out every Tuesday morning really early whenever Kristen decides to post it. And there are new episodes every single week. Please go and subscribe to our show. Don't waste your time downloading individual episodes, because the time that you save can be used to dig into your sexual shame and reversing it. You guys are awesome. We'll see you next week.